Buckingham Palace, late autumn. Leaves blew across the stone plaza like scattered memories. Among the tourists stood a small, silver-haired woman in a faded gray coat. Her walk was slow, her hands slightly trembling, but her eyes sharp as ever. Her name was Margaret Holloway, 87, and she had come to see him. Not a man, not a soldier, but a uniform, and what it stood for. Clutched in her hand, a weathered envelope, addressed to Private George Holloway. Postmarked, 1952. Corporal James Ashcroft, 33, stood in perfect formation, rifle at his side, polished buttons gleaming. He'd served in Afghanistan, been awarded for valor, but nothing tested his endurance like standing 7 hours without blinking. Until now. The old woman approached the rope line. She didn't shout. She didn't record. She simply looked at him and whispered, "You wear the same number." Corporal Ashcroft remained still, but inside something shifted. Margaret pulled the letter from her bag. "My husband wore that uniform 60 years ago." She held the envelope toward him. "They never sent me a reply." The tourists were beginning to notice, but she didn't care. He died at sea, but they never returned his belongings. Only this final post, unopened. From him. "You may not be him, but you're the closest thing I've had." Ashcroft didn't move, but his heart cracked open. A staff officer approached, gently asking Margaret to step away. She refused. Just let me leave it at his boots. That's all. I won't touch him. I promise." The officer hesitated, but Margaret stepped forward anyway, crawling under the rope. Ashcroft's orders were clear. Do not move. But he took a step. Forward. Just one. Security tensed. Cameras raised. But Ashcroft bent, slightly, just enough. And he took the letter from Margaret's trembling hand. "Thank you," she whispered, tears forming. "I just wanted someone to carry it the rest of the way." Inside the barracks, Lieutenant Graham Wells stared at the incident report. A Queen's Guard had moved. No violence, no shouting, just one step forward, and a letter taken. "You broke protocol, Corporal," Wells said, his voice tired. "Do you understand the severity?" Ashcroft nodded. "Yes, sir." Wells looked again at the envelope, now resting on his desk. Postmarked 1952. Still sealed. Still unopened. "She thinks it never reached her. 68 years ago." "What should I do?" Ashcroft asked. The lieutenant didn't answer. That night, Ashcroft couldn't sleep. The envelope sat on his nightstand. He held it carefully, like an artifact. Its paper yellowed, its corners softened by time. The ink barely legible. "Private George Holloway, Royal Navy. HMS Garland, dearest Margaret." He paused. Then, carefully, respectfully, opened it. Inside was a short, heartfelt note. "My darling Maggie, if you're reading this, it means I haven't made it back. But please know, every night under the stars, it was you I dreamed of." Ashcroft's hand trembled. It ended simply, "Love, eternal, George." The next day, Ashcroft asked for a brief leave. He went to the National Archives and, with the help of a friend, looked up service records. George Holloway, 27th, Royal Navy radio officer. Died in action, 1952. Missing in the Atlantic. Body never recovered. Listed as presumed lost, no remains. Letter undelivered. Ashcroft's chest ached. They never gave her closure. That Saturday, Ashcroft made a quiet request to his superior. "I'd like to return the letter. Properly." Wells hesitated, but nodded. The next morning, in full dress uniform, Ashcroft arrived at Margaret's nursing home in Chelsea. He wasn't alone. Behind him stood 4 other guards, a piper, and a young cadet holding a folded Union Jack. Margaret met them in tears. No speeches, no press, just a quiet, dignified presentation. "He came home," she whispered. "After all this time, he came home." After the ceremony, the story leaked. Not by the military, by a nurse. She posted the photo online, Margaret holding the letter, surrounded by soldiers. He broke formation to deliver a final goodbye. The internet erupted. Again. The last letter, royal closure. Honor beyond protocol. Ashcroft was called into the office again. But this time, there was no reprimand, only silence, and a photo on the wall, newly framed. "You did the right thing," Lieutenant Wells said quietly. 1 month later, Margaret came back to the palace, this time in a wheelchair. She asked for no special treatment. But the guard at the post that day, Ashcroft himself, saw her arrive. He blinked once, and for the briefest moment, he smiled. Margaret didn't need anything else. She saluted him. He saluted back. Margaret passed away peacefully in her sleep 3 months later. Among her few possessions, her wedding photo, the returned letter, and a card signed "To Margaret Holloway, with honor and remembrance, the Queen's Guard." Ashcroft attended the funeral, in full uniform, uninvited, unannounced. He stood outside the chapel, in the rain, saluting. 1 year later, during the changing of the guard, a small moment took place. As Ashcroft stepped into formation, he wore a pin, barely noticeable, tucked beneath his medals. It read, GH-1952. Tourists wouldn't know. Officials wouldn't comment. But among the ranks, word had spread. Not every guard stands for protocol. Some stand for love, for memory, for things that were left unsaid. In the Queen's Guard barracks, there is now a wooden plaque, engraved in gold, "To those who stood still, until it mattered more to move." And beneath it, the last letter delivered.